All right, ladies and gentlemen, special edition of the I Love Your Money podcast on this wintry Monday afternoon here in Central Texas. Thank you, Marcos Esparza, for joining me.
Oh man, it's always a pleasure, Erica. I love doing this.
Yes, okay. Well, we are not here to talk about something good, but I do always love talking to you, but I don't love
Yes.
talking to you about things that are terrible.
Mm,
But I wanted to come on and do a quick follow up because you were just on the podcast, a month or two ago, and we were talking about various insurance policies, insurance as it relates to businesses. And, I've got my tinfoil hat on for
yeah.
our conversation. But when we talked before, we talked about how a bunch of insurance companies were pulling out of different states like California and Florida,
Mhm.
depending on the kind of insurance.
Right.
And now we've had this tragedy in the Los Angeles area where, you
Yeah.
know, tens of thousands of acres burned, thousands of structures destroyed, people who had their insurance policies canceled
Yeah.
not very long before the wildfire started.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're seeing is, you know, here's my question.
hmm
There's a lot of blame to go around for this tragedy.
hmm
But I'm wondering, how do the insurance companies decide, like, where to provide insurance? Like, are they seeing that California isn't clearing the underbrush and that's why they're not going to provide fire insurance? Like, can you
hmm
share a little bit with our viewers, like, what do you think goes into the decision making of the various insurance companies whether or not to provide coverage?
Yeah, great question. And first of all, like
Yeah.
my heart reaches out to all those families affected there in California. Like I can't
Yes.
imagine what it's like. It's so intense, and families are hurting. There's
Yeah.
fatalities that we just saw that came through. So my heart, my prayers, and my heart go out to their families and all the homes that are affected. That's real life, and it's
Yeah.
loss, and it's grief, and it's pain, and that's hard. And so now you have to deal with the reality. You have to kind of remove the emotional pain that comes with that, and now answer that question. Insurance companies, like we had mentioned on that previous podcast, are for profit. And what's happening is that the weather, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, global warming, just the increase of cost of labor, material, and people compromising on building, people building in areas that are close to
Prone.
green belts. Yes, exactly. And so what happens is that insurance companies, it's a simple math equation.
Mm,
Sometimes it's more money going out than what's coming in. And
yeah.
and the official term for that insurance companies use is called combined ratio. And not
Mm.
to get too much in the weeds, but combined ratio is two ratios. One has to do with the expenses to run an insurance company and to pay
Mm.
everyone, and the other one has to do with the expense to pay out on claims. So there's a
Yep.
claims ratio, expense ratio. You put them together, you get a combined ratio. And when it becomes over 100, basically what that means, there's more money going out than what's coming in. And so insurance companies have different levers that they can push and
Mm.
pull to be able to try to be profitable.
Yeah.
And one of them, unfortunately, is pulling out,
Yeah.
completely not putting any type of insurance company in force within a state. And we're here in Texas. Texas has gone through some stuff as
Yeah.
well, for sure.
Right. Hail.
And yeah, oh, and then even tornadoes and
Mm.
even firestorms. I don't know if you guys remember the Bastrop wildfires that happened
Oh, yeah.
2009. I mean,
Yes.
that was like,
Yep.
what is that? And
Yep.
then we've had tornadoes, which we normally never had in Round Rock, where I live and where my office is at.
Yeah.
And now and then hailstorms, and then we're about to go into, we were just talking before the show, it's going to snow
Another
tonight.
another snowpocalypse. Like, what,
Snowpocalypse might
bro?
happen. It doesn't seem as bad, but you have to now guard your
Oh,
plumbing
yeah.
fixtures and make sure you winterize your home, because weather has become an issue. It's becoming harder for insurance companies to be profitable. Then you have in California where they have wildfires, and I don't know the exact logistics, but I assume that homes that are near brush,
Mm.
forest, trees, that have caused these wildfires.
Yeah.
Sometimes the insurance companies now are pulling out, or they're rating the location of the home to the proximity of the green area, or the green belt, or
Yeah.
where they call it a fire score now.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Oh,
so
oh, a
that answers,
fire score. Wait, we know about fire scores, don't we, Marcos? Don't we?
wow.
The client
Oh,
that I have
yes,
that is too
yes.
far away from the fire department or whatever.
Yes.
So,
And then the proximity of that was a business that we were working on with a mutual client, and they were too also very close to a brush area. And then if the
oh yeah.
fire department has to all come into play, and so you have very few insurance companies, which you guys experienced, that were willing to offer, and that's in Texas. Imagine in California where now they're hurting, and I can't
Well,
imagine what that's like.
and my understanding is that part of the reason why the insurance companies decided to just withdraw is that California actually put price controls in place. So some of these families might have opted to pay for higher premiums or for maybe pared down coverage, where
Right.
California actually didn't allow. My understanding is that California actually didn't even allow for those kinds of policies.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Texas Department of Insurance and the California Department of Insurance, insurance is mandated by the state. So and they're going to have different rules. And I think in Texas, we have this thing called file and use, where we
Mm.
immediately can file within the Texas Department of Insurance and then start implementing the rates. And then if the Texas Department of Insurance rejects our rate increase or rate adjustment, then we have to deal with that later. Where California, they
Mm.
don't. I don't think they have file and use. I could be wrong. I'll have to double check.
Yeah.
But basically, they got to get approved first before they can implement the rates. So the amount of time that it takes to execute new rates in order to get profitability becomes an issue, to further
Oh
exacerbate the
wow.
issue there in
Wow. Wow.
California.
Wow.
So it's really can be really
Yeah.
challenging for California to be able to insure and be
Well,
profitable.
and isn't that right? We talked about this, and I often talk about this about health insurance with friends of mine and things like that. It's insurance. Insurance is not meant to be coverage, uh, facilitation. It's meant to be
Right.
insurance, which is there in the case of emergency. But now, what it really seems like in the mind of the American person is that insurance is like
The
just
Salvation Army.
supposed to be there, just supposed to cover everything, like it's a not for profit, right? One of the things you said, these are for profit business. They aren't charities, and not that we don't care about people in their suffering and in their loss. I mean, this is terrible,
Yeah. Hmm.
but when if there are if there are policies being pursued by the governments of a locality, how can the insurance company be responsible when they're like set up to fail? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And
Did,
then
did
what
I
ends up
articulate
happening
that
is,
correctly?
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, the insurance companies have an air to being sort of a nonprofit, but they're not. But they're supposed to be there in
Yeah.
time of a need, which makes it feel like it's the Red Cross or Salvation Army, which we get. But that can be sort of the
Correct.
confusion and the butting of heads, because people have an expectation that they're always going to be there, and you see that they pulled out in certain states
Hmm.
like California. And so it's a hard issue. So what ends up happening is that insurance companies pull out,
Yeah.
then the pressure goes towards the state government, and they have government insurance pools that
Um,
are now completely unprofitable.
yep.
In Texas, we have something called the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, where, like in Houston, not a single insurance company wants to do hurricane coverage or windstorm coverage. So, in order for our clients in Texas to get it, they got to go to the government, and they're paying these high premiums with little coverage, and it's very unprofitable. So guess
Super
what
high.
happens? Tax dollars start to go up, and they
We
assess
cover it.
also the insurance companies to help mitigate some of that. So now you still have insurance companies who are not participating. They're subsidizing these government insurance pools. So it is a challenge. Like, who's going to take it? Is it the insurance company? Is it going to be the government? Or ultimately, it always goes down to the consumer. The consumer always ends up
Yeah.
having to pay something, whether they
Do
have
you
no
th-
coverage or they're paying higher premiums or both. It's a challenge.
okay. Okay, so here's my question. Call me crazy. Marcos.
Okay.
What if we just stopped as taxpayers and insurance companies being willing to rebuild things in known disaster areas? Am I crazy? Why do we have anything in Houston? I don't even understand. Like, once the first hurricane ran through, why did you rebuild there? Like, no, like, leave,
Yeah.
leave. I don't call, if the Pacific Palisades, known for wildfires, let's build
Hmm.
$1 million homes there. Like, my brain, this is my, my logic, accountant brain goes like, but no, but why?
Yeah.
And I have a little like a little short circuit in my brain. Like, why do we do this?
Yeah, it's a great
Are we
question.
crazy?
And I think in Houston, people live there because of the ship channel and the oil industry. And so then you've got insurance companies that are willing
Mm,
to say, all right, let me see if I can make a bet to be able to insure those buildings and businesses and homes. And sometimes there's insurance companies say, nope, I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Houston is like the kiss of death for home insurance. And so it can be challenging. But insurance
is it
companies are good
really?
indicators of where you should live because they're saying, "Hey, we think it's easy to do and build profitability in a certain area," and so that the cost of living,
Mm,
cost of insurance will be
okay.
less. So I mean, you get insurance companies, you can take a hint from them, and then try to move to the area that has the lowest
Okay.
premium because usually it's the lowest risk. But yeah, that's a
Right.
great
I
question.
remember I grew up in Vermont, very small, very rural, not a lot of action. And when I moved to Texas, my insurance rate doubled.
Oh my
My car
goodness.
insurance. I remember being like, "Why?" I was so mortified. What? Oh my, because I was young and, didn't have tons of money at the time. I mean, not like I'm super rich now, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
double your insurance rate. Like that's a huge bill increase. And I remember that it wasn't too long driving in traffic here. Why? The insurance rates are so much higher. The traffic here sucks and people drive terribly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what happens is that you
I
end up
was
going to
I
the
was
place
like,
that
"Oh,
costs
okay."
the least. I mean, Austin, up until recently, and I still think it's the case,
Yeah.
but the cost of living was pretty good compared to like California and New York. Now
Yeah.
it's Austin's exploded, as you know, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think you end up going
Yeah.
to a place to where the insurance premiums are going to be less and the cost of living is less, and so the risk is usually less. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's places like Houston and Los
So
Angeles.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. Okay, so one last question, and
Yeah, go
thank you
for
for
it.
coming on for the update. So one last
Yes.
question. I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but um so for these folks who have had fire insurance and say they've had fire insurance for years, and I've seen people posting about this, and they just had their policies canceled. Do they have any recourse? Is there anything that they can do?
Mm.
Like say I've got a house and I've had it insured for 20 years and you just canceled my policy. Like, do you think that those homeowners have any standing to go and get reimbursed from the insurance company?
Yeah, I think the short answer, unfortunately, would be no. And I think that's just the reality.
Yeah.
So there's something called the occurrence date on insurance policies that are usually set up as occurrence,
Mm,
where if the date of loss happened while the policy was active and it's a legitimate claim, then the policy has to pay out. Even like, let's say the fire happened and then the policy canceled. If it happened, then we're obligated. But if the
yeah.
policy already canceled and the occurrence of the fire happened after the policy lapsed or canceled, then unfortunately there's no coverage. And I did see somewhere that looks like the administration is trying to, on a government basis, to be able to offer some type of relief. And I think that's where it probably the help
Mm,
is going to be is through some type of national assistance, like a true nonprofit, like the Red Cross, and that's going to try to help out and right and step in
yeah.
where the insurance companies have or the policies have canceled
Yeah.
and there is no coverage. So I don't think there's any legal
Yeah. And
recourse
that's
or
what I mean, yeah. That's what, and we're seeing, North Carolina, they're still struggling. That whole area that was devastated by the flooding,
Yeah.
they're still not not in rebuild mode. You guys, if you are waiting for the government to save you, you are in big, big trouble, and that is something that we've learned. I hate to be political
That's okay. And we're
on a
connected to it.
conversation like this, but just time and time again, we're just seeing, the failure of these systems that are supposed to be in place. We pay into them like taxes and the government, and we have an expectation of something in return. And then when we don't see it, um, it's really disappointing. And
Yeah.
I think that one thing that you are so good at, Marcos, is relationship building, and I think
Mhm.
that's what is so important nowadays. Like you got to be plugged in somewhere, whether it's a church or a rotary or something. Y'all get out there, be in relationship, be part of your community, because when times are when the tragedy strikes, it's going to be you and your neighbors.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
No, I agree 100%. I
fortunately
mean,
and unfortunately, I have some
people
badass
need
neighbors.
people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree 100%. People
Yeah.
need people, and when you have when you have a tragedy or loss, man, nothing replaces a support system like family and friends. So I think that's what it comes down
Yeah.
to, is going to be your support system, and then what's available, even outside of that with the
Yep.
government assistance. I mean, imagine, I can't speak for every insurance
Yeah.
company. Maybe they would extend, but I think the short answer is no. If the claim happened after the policy canceled, unfortunately, I don't think there'd be coverage there to afford to those families that were affected
Yeah.
by the wildfires.
Much recourse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know somebody said that California was going to pass a law that made their insurance companies responsible or something. I was like, I mean, they can do that, but I don't think that's how the law works. I don't think, I mean, they can try, but really ultimately, you guys, what I would say is, if you have friends and family out in California and they have any GoFundMe's or things like that, give send goes, that you want to put in the chat below, go ahead and comment on whatever platform you're watching. Again, if you know uh legitimate charities, or again, friends of yours that are affected by the wildfires, go ahead and put them in the comments below, so that people can see them, get access to them, because that really is the best way to be helpful, is just direct aid to people that need it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I
and
appreciate
then
that.
Red Cross, like legitimate ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a good thing to do. And we've had clients call us in Texas, making sure that they're covered for fire insurance. And so you can definitely call your agent, and make sure that you have the coverage. I mean, it is causing people to rely on their insurance agent to see if they have the coverage, because they're seeing it happen elsewhere. And so, call your agent if you have any concerns. They should be able to answer those
Yep.
questions for you and be able to take care of you.
Yep. And if you don't have an insurance agent that you can call, or the insurance agent you have sucks, don't call them. Call Marcos Esparza of the Marcos Esparza Insurance Agency in Round Rock, Texas, because
Yeah.
he's awesome. And if he can put up with me, y'all, he can put up with you. So,
Uh,
thank you, Marcos, so much for being
Absolutely.
with us this evening.
Always a pleasure, Ericka. You're a joy.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye for now.
All right. Bye, guys.